Imagine this for a moment. The part of your body that quietly holds your teeth in place, feeds them blood, nerves, life itself, slowly pulling away, almost unnoticed. Gum recession doesn't shout, it whispers, and yet, with just 2 mindful drops of certain natural oils, we can begin a conversation with the body that is surprisingly powerful, deeply biological, and profoundly respectful of how healing actually works. The gums are not dead tissue. They are living, responsive, intelligent. When olive oil touches them, it doesn't act like a drug, it behaves like a message. Rich in polyphenols and healthy fats, it calms oxidative stress at the gum line, softening inflammation that silently erodes tissue over time. Blood flow improves, cells receive oxygen again, and the mouth shifts from a state of defense into one of repair, not forcefully, but patiently. When olive oil comes into contact with the gums, the interaction is far more intimate than most people imagine, because this tissue is not passive or inert, but highly responsive to its chemical environment. Receding gums are often the visible outcome of long-term oxidative stress, where reactive molecules quietly damage cells faster than the body can repair them. And olive oil enters this environment carrying compounds that speak the biological language of calm rather than aggression. Its polyphenols act as molecular stabilizers, gently neutralizing oxidative reactions that inflame the gum margin and weaken the delicate attachment between gum and tooth. As this oxidative pressure eases, the tissue is no longer forced into constant immune alert, and cellular energy can be redirected away from defense and back toward maintenance and repair. The fatty acid profile of olive oil also plays a subtle but crucial role in how the gums respond. These lipids integrate easily with cell membranes, improving their flexibility and resilience, which matters because gum tissue is constantly exposed to mechanical stress from chewing, brushing, and speaking. Healthier membranes allow cells to communicate more efficiently, sharing signals that coordinate healing responses across the tissue rather than isolating damage in one fragile area. This improved communication supports angiogenesis at a micro level, allowing tiny blood vessels to function more effectively, bringing oxygen and nutrients to areas that previously struggled to receive them. Inflammation, when chronic, narrows blood vessels and restricts circulation. But olive oil gently encourages the opposite state. By calming inflammatory signaling pathways, it allows blood flow to normalize at the gum line, restoring a steady delivery of glucose, amino acids, and minerals essential for collagen maintenance. Collagen fibers form the scaffold that gives gums their firmness and adherence, and when oxidative stress disrupts collagen turnover, recession accelerates. Olive oil does not force collagen production. Instead, it creates biochemical conditions where the body's natural remodeling process can resume its rhythm without interference. There is also an almost philosophical dimension to how olive oil works in oral tissue, because it does not attempt to overpower the body's systems. Unlike harsh antiseptics that sterilize indiscriminately, olive oil supports balance. It reduces inflammatory chaos without eliminating the beneficial microbes that contribute to oral equilibrium, preserving the ecological stability that healthy gums depend on. This balance reduces repeated immune flare-ups that slowly erode tissue integrity over months and years. Applied consistently and mindfully, olive oil becomes less of a remedy and more of a signal, reminding the gums that safety has returned and that repair is once again allowed. Cells sense this shift not as an external command, but as an internal permission to rebuild strength, thickness, and resilience in their own time, guided by biological intelligence rather than urgency. When coconut oil enters the oral environment, it immediately begins interacting with one of the most overlooked drivers of gum recession: the invisible microbial pressure that keeps tissues locked in a state of low-grade alarm. The mouth is a living ecosystem, and when harmful bacteria dominate the gum line, they continuously release byproducts that irritate tissue and provoke immune responses. Coconut oil contains medium-chain fatty acids, especially lauric acid, that naturally interfere with the survival and attachment of these bacteria without scorched earth tactics. Instead of wiping everything out, it selectively weakens organisms that thrive on inflammation, subtly reshaping the microbial landscape into one that is less hostile to the gums. This reduction in bacterial stress has a cascading effect on the immune system. Chronically irritated gums signal danger even when no acute threat exists, and immune cells respond by releasing inflammatory compounds that slowly degrade connective tissue. Coconut oil reduces this constant provocation, allowing immune signaling to soften rather than escalate. When the immune system is no longer stuck in repetitive defense, it reallocates resources toward tissue maintenance, collagen stabilization, and cellular housekeeping processes that are essential for gum integrity. Healing here is not explosive or dramatic. It is quiet, steady, and biologically efficient. The texture and lipid structure of coconut oil also matter more than people realize. As it coats the gum line, it forms a temporary protective layer that limits bacterial adhesion and reduces friction from mechanical stress, like brushing or chewing. This gentle buffering effect gives vulnerable gum tissue a chance to recover from daily microtrauma that otherwise compounds recession over time. Cells sense reduced physical irritation and respond by lowering stress-related signaling, which further dampens inflammation at the molecular level. Coconut oil also influences the oral environment by supporting salivary balance. Healthy saliva is rich in enzymes and minerals that help remineralize teeth and nourish soft tissue. But chronic bacterial overgrowth disrupts this balance. By easing microbial load, coconut oil indirectly allows saliva to perform its restorative role more effectively, enhancing nutrient exchange at the gum surface and supporting epithelial cell renewal. This renewal is essential because gum tissue relies on continuous cell turnover to maintain thickness and attachment strength. What makes coconut oil particularly interesting from a reflective perspective is that it does not push the gums to grow. It removes the obstacles that were preventing them from stabilizing in the first place. Receding gums often represent exhaustion rather than failure, a tissue worn down by constant irritation and defense. Coconut oil changes the conversation from attack to cooperation, from constant resistance to quiet recovery. Over time, as irritation decreases and immune tension relaxes, the gums regain their ability to hold position, reinforce their structure, and respond to nourishment rather than threat. Guided by a biological intelligence that thrives best when disturbance finally fades, when eucalyptus oil touches the gums, its influence is felt less as a surface sensation and more as a subtle awakening within the tissue itself. Because one of the quiet drivers of gum recession is stagnation rather than damage alone. Gum tissue depends on constant microcirculation to survive, delivering oxygen, nutrients, immune cells, and repair signals through an intricate network of tiny blood vessels. When circulation slows due to chronic inflammation, stress, or microbial irritation, the tissue gradually thins and withdraws, not out of weakness, but out of insufficient support. Eucalyptus oil carries natural compounds that gently encourage vascular responsiveness, allowing blood vessels to open and close more efficiently rather than remaining constricted in a defensive state. This gentle stimulation does not resemble artificial stimulation that overwhelms tissue. Instead, it nudges physiological rhythms back toward balance. Increased blood flow brings fresh oxygen to cells that may have been operating in a low-energy environment. And oxygen availability directly affects how efficiently cells repair membranes, synthesize proteins, and maintain structural integrity. As oxygen delivery improves, cellular metabolism becomes more efficient, reducing the accumulation of metabolic byproducts that can further irritate the gum line. In this way, eucalyptus oil supports healing not by adding something foreign, but by restoring the delivery system the body already relies on. Equally important is its effect on lymphatic movement within the gums. Lymphatic flow is responsible for clearing inflammatory waste, cellular debris, and excess fluid from tissues. And when this flow is sluggish, inflammation lingers longer than necessary. Eucalyptus oil encourages gentle lymph movement, allowing congestion to resolve naturally rather than becoming chronic. As swelling decreases, pressure on surrounding tissue lessens, giving gum cells physical space to reorganize and strengthen their attachments. Reduced congestion also improves nutrient exchange, allowing minerals and amino acids to reach deeper layers of the gum more consistently. There is also a neurological dimension to eucalyptus oil's effect. The gums are richly innervated, and persistent irritation can heighten nerve sensitivity, keeping tissue in a state of stress signaling. The aroma and biochemical interaction of eucalyptus oil can calm this heightened sensory input, lowering stress-related responses at the tissue level. When nerve signaling quiets, blood vessels respond by relaxing rather than constricting. Reinforcing the cycle of improved circulation and reduced inflammation, this mind-body interaction is subtle but powerful, reminding us that healing often requires calming perception as much as repairing structure. Over time, consistent exposure to improved circulation changes how gum tissue behaves. Cells that once struggled to maintain their position gain access to the resources they need to reinforce connective fibers and maintain thickness. This is not rapid regrowth, but stabilization, followed by gradual strengthening, guided by restored flow rather than forced intervention. Eucalyptus oil becomes a facilitator of movement, breath, and exchange within the gums, allowing living tissue to respond as it was designed to when circulation, clearance, and communication are finally allowed to work together again. When clove oil comes into contact with the gums, its presence is immediately sensed not only by surface cells, but by the dense network of nerves woven through the tissue. And this interaction matters deeply because pain and inflammation are not just symptoms. They are signals that shape how tissue behaves over time. Receding gums are often accompanied by subtle, persistent nerve irritation that keeps the area in a state of heightened alert. And clove oil carries natural compounds that gently quiet this signal without numbing the tissue into silence. By calming overstimulated nerve endings, it reduces the constant stress messaging that tells the gums they are under threat, allowing physiological systems to shift from protection toward restoration. This calming effect on nerves has downstream consequences that extend far beyond comfort. When nerve irritation decreases, inflammatory signaling pathways also soften, because the nervous and immune systems are in constant conversation. Reduced inflammatory signaling means fewer enzymes, breaking down connective tissue, and fewer immune cells releasing compounds that weaken the gum's structural matrix. In this quieter environment, fibroblasts, the specialized cells responsible for producing and maintaining connective tissue, are able to function with greater efficiency. These cells do not build new tissue in a dramatic burst. They work steadily, repairing microdamage, reinforcing collagen fibers, and maintaining the elasticity that allows gums to grip teeth securely. Clove oil's influence on fibroblasts is especially meaningful because connective tissue health determines whether gums can hold their position over time. Fibroblasts require a stable environment to produce high-quality collagen, and chronic inflammation disrupts this process, leading to thinner, weaker tissue. By reducing both pain and inflammation, clove oil indirectly supports the biochemical conditions fibroblasts need to do their work properly. Collagen turnover becomes more balanced, degradation slows, and the structural framework of the gums regains coherence rather than continuing to fray at the margins. There is also an antimicrobial dimension to clove oil that complements its soothing effects. Harmful bacteria contribute to nerve irritation and immune activation by releasing toxins near the gum line, and clove oil gently limits their activity without stripping the mouth of its beneficial organisms. This moderation reduces repeated inflammatory triggers that would otherwise keep fibroblasts in a defensive mode rather than a constructive one. With fewer interruptions, connective tissue maintenance becomes more consistent and resilient. On a deeper level, clove oil illustrates how healing often begins with relief rather than stimulation. Pain keeps tissues rigid, guarded, and metabolically strained, while relief allows softness, flexibility, and responsiveness to return. As nerve endings calm and connective tissue regain stability, the gums are no longer reacting moment by moment, but responding over time. Strength emerges not through force, but through restored balance, where sensation, circulation, and cellular repair align quietly, allowing the gums to regain comfort, resilience, and structural integrity according to their own biological rhythm. When these oils are used together, their influence on the gums is not simply additive, but cooperative, creating a biological environment where multiple barriers to healing are addressed at the same time. Gum recession rarely has a single cause. It emerges from the interaction of inflammation, microbial imbalance, reduced circulation, nerve irritation, and connective tissue fatigue. A combined oil application gently touches each of these layers without overwhelming any one system. Olive oil softens oxidative stress and restores cellular calm. Coconut oil reduces microbial pressure. Eucalyptus oil reawakens circulation. And clove oil soothes nerves while supporting connective tissue maintenance. allowing the gums to experience a rare state of coordinated support rather than isolated intervention. This coordination matters because living tissue heals best when signals align rather than compete. Inflammation that is reduced but still paired with poor circulation limits repair. Just as improved circulation without microbial control keeps irritation alive. When these oils are present together, inflammatory signaling quiets while blood and lymph flow improve, and the immune system no longer has to choose between constant defense and repair. It can do both in balance, clearing harmful agents while preserving the structural integrity of the gums. This balanced immune response prevents the repeated tissue breakdown that slowly drives recession forward. The oral environment itself begins to change under this combined influence. The gum line becomes less acidic, less congested, and less hostile to healthy microbial communities. Beneficial bacteria regain their role in maintaining oral equilibrium, which further stabilizes immune responses and reduces inflammatory cycles. Saliva becomes more effective in delivering minerals and enzymes, and the surface of the gums experiences less friction and microtrauma during daily activities. These small shifts accumulate over time, creating conditions that favor maintenance and gradual strengthening rather than continued erosion. There is also a behavioral aspect to combined oil use that quietly supports healing. The act of mindful application slows the interaction between person and body, bringing attention to an area often ignored until discomfort appears. This attention encourages gentler oral care habits, more awareness of pressure during brushing, and a deeper respect for tissue sensitivity. Stress-related behaviors that contribute to inflammation, such as jaw tension or aggressive cleaning, naturally diminish when awareness increases. In this way, the oils influence not only biology, but behavior, reinforcing healing through conscious interaction. What ultimately emerges from this combined approach is not the promise of rapid regrowth, but the restoration of biological permission. The gums are no longer fighting multiple battles at once. They are supported on all fronts, allowed to stabilize, reorganize, and strengthen at a pace that aligns with natural tissue turnover. Over time, resilience replaces vulnerability. Sensitivity gives way to comfort, and the gums respond not as damaged structures in need of rescue, but as living tissue rediscovering the conditions it requires to hold, protect, and sustain itself with quiet intelligence.